Hey, Tom Rabbit! I hope you got this for your recording. Hey, YouTube out there. Tom Rabbit likes to record these. Hey, Tom Rabbit!
Darth, I missed you yesterday. I didn't get a chance to talk to you, and I've been waiting to actually ask you. I wanted to answer your question from yesterday, and
Sure.
because it seemed like you were missing someone who was actually not going to lie to you about their atheism or their agnosticism or anything like that.
Uh-huh.
So I
Okay.
wanted to actually talk to you and see where you stood on it, and just make sure that we can actually have a conversation instead of a debate, because a lot of people don't want to actually like talk about stuff like that. So I actually
Mhm.
want to have a decent conversation with you and see where you stand on that, and see if we can actually have a dialogue, if that's
Okay.
okay.
Go ahead.
Cool. So you asked yesterday, is there any atheist on this app that does not lie? So I'm agnostic atheist. I lean more towards there not being a God, but I have seen instances where my faith has been challenged in that area. So I know you might have had some questions about whether or not someone would lie to you about their faith or their belief system. So I would love for you to rapid fire any questions that you might have, and just
Okay.
know that I'm not lying to you.
Okay. So when you call yourself an agnostic atheist, how do
hmm
you define the word atheist?
For myself, it means there's no belief system in a higher power.
Okay, so does that constitute the denial of God's existence, or is it simply merely the suspension of belief?
Sometimes it depends. I guess it depends on the day, you know? So there are some days when I feel like, fuck it, God doesn't exist at all. And then there are times when I feel like, maybe there is something out there still. I was
Well,
born and raised.
words have to mean things. So when you call yourself
Yeah.
an agnostic atheist, does atheist mean the denial of God, or does it just simply mean the absence of a positive belief in God?
Well, I don't think it's a positive belief in God. So let's just say that. So each person is different. Just like
Okay,
words change and meanings change over time, like the
the
word
stand.
literally doesn't mean that anymore. Or they're like, just think about things like your sexual orientation is always on a spectrum. Same thing with like autism. The words mean things, yes, but over time with etymology, they change. They mean different things to people. And as time goes on, then certain things mean more to you than they used to. And for
Okay,
some of us,
are you using the word atheist in terms of the standard definition?
I'm using it according to what it's always been, is the disbelief in a higher power, or the
Okay, well
not
then,
knowing.
the standard definition then constitutes the denial, not merely the lack of a positive belief. Okay?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, you're saying positive. I don't think it's positive or negative. Just to not
Yeah,
believe
yeah,
in a
yeah. No,
God
no,
is
that's
not positive
incorrect.
or negative.
That's
For
incorrect.
whom?
Okay. The
For
standard and
whom?
historical definition of atheism is that there are no gods. Okay?
Okay, but the
Now,
standard definition of a lot of words is now different, and that's what I'm saying. And
okay,
if you
if you
think that
look,
the term literally
Lasha,
means the same thing that it used to,
Lasha,
it doesn't mean it anymore.
if you survey all of the reference works, dictionaries and encyclopedias, including dictionaries and encyclopedias of philosophy, there is a
And I don't do
uniform
that.
standard definition of atheism that there are no gods. Now, a couple of dictionaries recently, within the last couple of years, have
Mhm.
included a secondary definition of a lack of belief. But that
Okay.
is that secondary definition that a minority number of dictionaries are including, that secondary definition is ambiguous and not informative. Okay?
Well, whether it's ambiguous or not, it's still in the dictionary and would constitute an actual meaning, correct?
You're not getting my point. To
I do get
say
your
that
point. You're saying that it
atheism
doesn't
is
mean
a
the
lack,
same.
listen to me carefully, okay? The
hmm
historical and standard definition, even to this day, is that atheism is there are no gods, okay?
Okay.
Now, some atheists will claim that atheism is not the denial of God, but is a lack of belief in God. Now, this is very
Explain.
problematic because
For whom?
that definition is ambiguous, okay? Because one could deny the existence of God and still constitute a lack of belief. Or one could claim that they have an absence of a positive belief in God and claim to be lack of belief. So when somebody claims that atheism is a lack of belief, it is not specific as to whether it is the denial of the existence of God or the mere absence of a positive belief. So lack of belief in
But
God as a
even in that
definition of
case,
atheism. May I finish, please? I've
of
actually
course you can,
done
Darth. This
some
is your space.
research on this. Okay? Now,
Mm-hmm.
so defining atheism as a lack of belief is non-informative and is ambiguous, and it is not productive to define it that way.
But who
Now,
is it not productive to?
to the English-speaking world. Okay,
No, but obviously not, because there are multiple dictionaries that have different meanings.
okay.
So if
I've
that's
already
the case, then
explained
that
to
means the
you. I've already
world is trying
explained
to
to you.
confuse
I've
everyone.
already explained to you. If you sit down tomorrow on your computer and you
Mm-hmm.
peruse every dictionary that you can find on the interweb, right? Including the Oxford English
I don't use the
Dictionary, if you have a
internet,
subscription to
actually.
it, which I
Sorry.
have accessed, the subscription service, which most people don't get, okay, they
Mm-hmm.
uniformly define atheism as the denial and disbelief in God, okay?
Here's the thing,
So
Darth.
you
Even
call
if it
yourself
did,
an atheist. Now, do
I
you
said
deny
agnostic
the
atheist.
existence of God? Do you
I said
deny the
agnostic
existence? Okay,
atheist.
why do you, will you let me finish, please?
Of course you can, sir. This is your stage. You
Okay.
do whatever you want.
Do I sound like I'm uninformed on this issue?
Do, sir, do I sound like I'm uninformed? Because this is the thing.
Yes,
We're
you
both getting to
do.
meet each other for the
Yes,
first
you
time.
do. Listen,
We're both meeting each other for the first time, correct?
if you're going to bicker with me, we'll move you back to the
This is not
audience.
bickering, sir.
You are bickering.
Not bickering. This is me answering asking questions.
Maybe you're so accustomed to bickering that you're no longer
I
aware that
don't
you're
bicker.
doing it.
I
Okay,
don't bicker.
then okay, you are. Okay?
So
Now,
what I'm asking you is,
when
just
you
like you
call
asked me,
yourself an atheist, when you call yourself an atheist,
mm-hmm.
are you denying the existence of God, or do
Of
you
course you
mean
are, sir.
you merely? If you ever talk
Mhm.
to me again, I'm going to kick you off the stage. Okay?
What would you like me to do?
Okay. Goodbye.
Would you like me to answer?
All right. The lack of self-awareness on the part of some people blows my mind, and some people say I'm not patient. So the bottom line is the standard and historical definition of atheism is the denial and disbelief of gods. And more specifically, there is no supreme being, creator God. Right? Now, atheists of this generation, in interaction and debate, tend to run away from the standard historical definition because they know they cannot defend the universal dictum that there is no God. So, what they want to do is represent atheism by defining it as a mental or a psychological state whereupon they have an absence of a positive belief in God, but does not constitute the outright denial of the existence of God. And by defining atheism in that way, they insulate themselves from having to defend what their real position is, which is the denial of the existence of God. Now, if they claim, oh, but I'm not denying the existence of God, then there is a word in the English language which has been coined by which one claims to suspend judgment about God, and that's agnostic. Now, there are atheists out there on the interweb because they're poor researchers and haven't really studied very well, is they like to call themselves an agnostic atheist, right? And they think that this is somehow being clever or precise. It's not, okay? Because if atheist means the lack of belief of God, but does not constitute the denial thereof, then it would be redundant to call yourself an agnostic atheist, because agnosticism is the claim to have a lack of positive belief in God. It's a claim to suspend judgment. So if atheism is defined as a lack of positive belief in God, then it's like saying, I lack belief in God, I lack belief in God. But there's a reason why they call themselves an agnostic atheist, because they're using the word atheist there to mean I believe there's no God. So they will say, well, I believe there's no God, but I don't know there's no God. So what they're attempting again to do with nomenclature is to insulate themselves from defending their position. And I'm done with my rant. If anybody has any questions, agreements, or disagreements.
Completely disagree. But that's okay.
Okay, who brought her back up?
I
Not sure.
also completely disagree.
Okay, we'll give you another chance. Okay, so you don't agree. Go ahead, sir.
You're claiming that atheists
Hello.
are purposely trying to insulate themselves from their claims so that they just make up things, essentially?
Let me clarify again, okay? It's been my uniform experience in dealing with atheists over the last 12 years, plus in listening to enormous amounts of YouTube videos, that the vast majority of atheists want to represent and define atheism as a mental, psychological state that constitutes an absence of a positive belief in God without the denial thereof. Okay? Now, do you want to dispute that?
Maybe that's because that's what they think, honestly.
That's what I just said.
So what are they supposed to call themselves?
Okay? If they don't hold to the disposition that God does not exist, then they should not be calling themselves atheists. If they are claiming that they are suspending judgment as to the proposition that God does or does not exist, they should call themselves an agnostic. Agnosticism is the claim to suspend judgment as to the existence or non existence of God. But they don't want to do that. They readily know that agnosticism is a claim to withholding judgment. But they prefer atheist because they know what it historically has meant, and that in widespread English usage denotes the denial of God. So they want to have their cake and eat it too. Okay.
And what's wrong with that?
If somebody referred to themselves as an agnostic, would you attempt to put them in the atheist category?
He
I
just
would
wants everyone to
respond.
believe in God.
Okay. All right. Would you please stop? Okay. You're going to have to wait. You were removed from the room for bad conduct. Okay.
There was no bad conduct.
Okay.
You just didn't want
Goodbye.
to answer the question.
Okay. Now you're expunged permanently. Okay. All right. Goodbye. You are the weakest link. Okay. So where were we, Tartarus? Where were we? Did you catch that, Tom Rabbit? Hope you upload that to YouTube.